Here's the news from NBC. Violent crackdown in Iran as Trump warns regime will start shooting if more protesters are killed. The protests, which started out with economic grievances, have now morphed into one of the biggest challenges the Islamic Republic has faced in its 47-year history. They say the fresh protests came as President Donald Trump again warned the regime that he would intervene if demonstrators were killed. Quote, "I tell the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting because we'll start shooting too." Iran's Prosecutor General Mohammad Mavahedi Azad said Saturday that protesters would be considered an enemy of God, a death penalty charge in Iran, in remarks reported by Iran semi-official Tasnim news agency. The news agency also reported that 100 people had been arrested in Tehran province for disrupting public order and leading riots. Now, we've got this from The Atlantic. Is the Iranian regime about to collapse? And there had been reports in the past week that the Ayatollah may actually flee to either a secure bunker or even the country over the mass unrest. And then we have this from today. New travel warning issued for U.S. citizens in Iran. Leave now. I don't know if that means we're gearing up for war with Iran, but I can certainly tell you there are powerful people in the United States that have wanted to go to war with Iran for just so long. And now they're oh so close. Well, I will say a few things before we get into this. The first is, just because you see a protest on TV doesn't mean it actually is significant. So we've got riots happening right now in Minnesota, and it is significant to a certain degree. My point is, if you were to look at those riots in Minnesota and assume the entire country was on the verge of collapse because of that riot, well, I'd say you're being silly. That being said, I think we can all recognize the political underpinnings of the riots in Minnesota do suggest there's a greater conflict happening in this country. And that's what I would say equally about Iran. I doubt these protests are literally millions of people rising up in revolution, but the protests do signify unrest. I think it's fair to say that people of Iran largely do not like their government. At least that's the perception from the outside. Does that mean we should go in and invade and take over or start shooting? I don't see a good argument, to be completely honest. I mean, Trump saying if you shoot, we'll shoot. I'm like, why? There are a bunch of other countries we can do that in. I guess to be fair, Trump wanted to do that in Nigeria, so maybe we are about to go to war with Iran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this batch of protests is, like, I made the point on the show like last week that Iran has protests fairly regularly. They have these large mass protests, again, like clockwork, pretty much every 3 to 6 months. But the thing, and when this initially broke out, again, I was just like, okay, here's another round of protests. You're going to see people coming out saying, oh, there's blood in the water. This time's different. And then 3 weeks later, we won't hear about it again. The interesting thing about this batch of protests is, one, it was spurred by economic problems. Like the Iranian currency is trading like 1.4 million to the US dollar. Like their currency is completely caved in. So when you have these protests in Iran, typically it's like the urban elite that are participating in the protest. Typically it's like in Tehran. Tehran is a fairly secular city relative to the region largely. But the interesting thing with this batch of protests is they're widespread from a variety of different ethnic groups. Like they have protests in like oil rigs, these sorts of things, which is interesting. And then even in regime-heavy towns and cities, places that are typically pretty supportive of the regime, you're even seeing pretty large protests there. Obviously, we saw the video of them burning a mosque, because you have this strange thing happening in Iran right now where younger people are sort of reinvigorated. They're developing an interest in like Zoroastrianism. So you're seeing, yeah. It's an increasingly large proportion of the Zoomers in Iran, and so you're seeing this real break from, again, tradition in Iran. They are secularizing, liberalizing, whatever you want to call it. But the question is, this now for us? Is it time for us to put our thumb on the scale, or do we just kind of let this operate and see how far it goes?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Vice Grad 24, which is a fairly reliable, not that I know a ton about them. They tend to be fairly reliable. They've been reporting for the past couple days that the numbers of killed could be in the thousands. Now, I know that someone else was saying there's something like 538 confirmed. If the United States actually is going to do something because the Iranians are being killed by their government. I do think that it's likely to happen soon. You've heard stories of KC-130s moving into the region. You hear stories of B-2s that are, I forget the island that they're stationed on, but they're in the region as well. I don't imagine there will be actual troops on the ground, even though there's talk of some of the Delta guys moving into that way.
Didn't we already have troops on the ground when we did that operation? Where we bombed their nuclear bunkers?
I don't think that they had. Not that I'm aware of. At
I think
least
they were launched from like Leavenworth. Like it was in the middle of the country, the United States, and
No,
went
you're
all the
talking
way
about-
over, bombed them, came back.
You're
home.
talking B-2s.
Oh right,
Yeah, B-2s. I think they actually fly out of like they fly out of like Wyoming or something like that. But anyways, the point being, like, until you see a carrier strike group in the area, I don't imagine that there's going to be significant ground troops.
Well,
you just don't have the logistical support.
You can tell they're the United States is certainly making a play here because the UK has been trying to give away the Chagos Islands. So you're referring to Diego Garcia. It's this massive base that we share with the British. It's off the coast or it's in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And the British have been trying to give it away for like quite literally no reason, like quite literally social justice reasons. They even admit that. Like it's legitimately for no reason they're giving this island to Mauritius. And the Americans have now stepped in. Like the Trump administration earlier had said, like, oh, this is kind of unacceptable. But now we realize, like, hey, you're trying to give away Diego Garcia. This is one of the most valuable military bases in the world. Like, what are you doing? We're going to step in and blow that deal up for them to basically give away their territory because they're like, hey, no, we need to be putting pressure on the Iranian regime. We're not going to let you just give away like one of the most strategically important bases in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope we do not put troops in Iran. I think this regime is on its, kind of death rattle breaths here. This seems like the most intense riots that they've had in their 47 years. But I think this is something for the Iranian people to handle themselves. It kind of looks like they got it. Obviously, they are being killed. It looks like at least 500, potentially up to thousands. That's horrible, but I don't think that's a reason to justify our troops going in. If anything, I'd be open to, supplying them with arms through some type of neighboring country.
But why? What do they believe in, and what do they want to do? Like, why should we back anyone in this fight?
It's a tyrannical state sponsor of terrorism in multiple regions across the world, which we've been kind of suffocating them when we took away their oil.
My question though is if we were to give these people weapons, like let's say it gets to that point, are we not like is it possible we just create another big problem in the Middle East?
Potentially, but if it results in the overthrow of this tyrannical regime, I mean, for just sending some weapons. But again, I'm not saying we get involved at all. I want as minimal involvement as possible. I'd say let the Iranian people kind of figure this out on their own. And
agreed, like any other country.
There's going to be a body count. There was in all great revolutions.
This is going to be really enticing for the United States to want to get involved in because obviously the Shah, that's like what the protesters are citing. They're putting up the flag with the lion. Like clearly they want to restore Iran to a pre-revolution state of being. And the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, is Western aligned. He's by many accounts a Westerner himself. So you would obviously install a very pro-Western government. And Iran is really the last sort of bastion against this Abraham Accords coalition that's been built in the Middle East. And if Iran goes down, all of their proxies go down by extension. So you're talking about Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. So again, the stakes here are actually very, very high. You really are talking about, for the United States, this is the most enticing possibility for, again, peace in the Middle East. Probably won't happen, but
I'm getting a call real quick. Hold on a second. Hello. I'm pro-war with Iran.
you got the call.
Yeah, we got I got a call just now. Turns out I actually was wrong about everything. Iran's got to go and send in the troops. Just whatever we got to do to get them out of there.
Someone Venmoed me $7,000. What is this? What's going on?
Excuse me, Rumble walleted you.
Let's go.
$7,000.
$7,000 in crypto is going to change in 5 minutes.
Tell you what, I'm glad I downloaded that app.
So great. Everyone, if you want to receive your own $7,000,
you can get the Rumble wallet in the App Store. It's available now.
I've been reliably told that I'll get a $7,000 super chat if I praise Israel.
Yeah.
I look at these protests and it's funny because we've got these mass riots happening in the U.S. right now. And the first thing I think is I don't want to fall for this game of I see a picture of a protest and I'm like, oh, the poor Iranians, like, oh, we have to help them. No, I don't care. Like, look, you show me a protest of something happening in Uzbekistan or Ukraine, and I'm just like, I'm not there. I don't care. Like like people have to solve these things on their own problems. I look at what's going on here. I look at what's going on there. And the question is not about protest. Because what we end up wrapped up in, especially with these riots in the United States and the culture war, is a question over should someone be allowed to engage in civil unrest, with a great example of the bifurcation being like Ashley Babbitt and Renee Good. And that's what the liberals have tried using as to claim hypocrisy on the right. And I'm like, well, I mean, Ashley Babbitt wasn't engaging in any degree of violence, and she stepped up on a trim to look through a window, got shot in the face. That's very different from Renee Good, who was behind the wheel of a car, obstructing, was trained to assault officers, and then tried fleeing and struck an officer with their vehicle. That being said, if you commit a crime, you are responsible for what happens after that to a great degree. With Ashley Babbitt, I actually agree, and I respect that. I'm not going to play any stupid games. That being said, did Ashley Babbitt know she was committing a crime? Was she committing a violent crime, or was she walking around a public building? So those are the questions that you have in that scenario. Whereas with the Renee Good, you have a woman behind the wheel of a car attempting to flee 2 felonies, which is very, very, very different. But ultimately, it comes down to this. These arguments about hypocrisy are completely meaningless to me because ideology is different. If I say something like, I think that people should have the right to keep and bear arms, and then some leftist goes, okay, so we're going to go give a bunch of, Islamic terrorists and far left Antifa guys guns. Some people will say, well, you always had a right to keep and bear arms. And if you were to say, no, you can't have them, I don't view that as hypocritical as much as I view it as ideological. And that can come from a conservative or a liberal. And then the question is, which ideology is better? Which moral framework is better? And to put it simply, if a criminal believes he has a right to take from you and destroy your life and kill your family, we don't let them have guns. We say you have been adjudicated as such and you can't have your gun. So there is a worldview and moral framework a person could have that disqualifies them from what we would describe as the right to keep and bear arms. The point I'm ultimately making is the most rudimentary view of all of this is the Iranian regime is garbage. Their government is trash. And so we're more inclined to support the protesters who want to stop their trash government. Our protesters are trash, and we want to stop them. So the point is, you look at Venezuela, that's a government of trash. That is, what did Javier Milei call them?
I don't know.
It's Merde, left or whatever. How do you say left in Spanish?
I don't know.
Derecha? No, izquierda. Izquierda.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say? Izquierda Merde or whatever?
Izquierda de la izquierda. Something like that.
I don't speak any Spanish. I have no idea.
Yeah, he said something like that. He said, you can't give them anything because they'll take it. So you look at what happens in Minnesota. These people running around like lunatics, attacking ICE. I mean, the riots have gotten absolutely insane. They're ramming, like there's a video allegedly of a ramming of an ICE vehicle and they jump out. A guy saying everyone's got to go get guns, start killing these people. And I'm like, yeah, we don't want those people in government. I don't care about their quote unquote free speech. When they go out and they say they want to get guns, start murdering federal agents, that's not free speech. Okay, you want to go to China, you want to give out leaflets and books, you go ahead and do that. Ideology matters, right? So a government like that turns into Venezuela. Not good. Not good. And so that, basically this idea of the protesters are good and the government is always bad is the stupidest thing ever. And that's the game that the liberals try to play with this one. So, whether or not we get involved with Iran is a different thing. But I'm just saying, I guess my final thought on it, don't get wrapped up in propaganda trying to convince you that the entirety of Iran is in revolution, as people are trying to claim. Israel's got major interests in the collapse of the Iranian government and the U.S. involvement there. So you're going to see pressure campaigns, PR campaigns, and activists trying to claim as such. There's obviously U.S. interests in the collapse of the Iranian regime, but I think there are protests. I doubt they're the biggest protests they've ever faced, and we'll see what happens. But that's what it is.
Arab Spring worked out pretty well for the protesters, and we didn't need to get involved militarily. It took over Egypt in 2011, overthrew a dictator. So, again, I hope the Iranian people take care of this themselves. I believe they can.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.